So it is great to be back with you today. I was gone last week, and so it's great to be back this week. It was also great to be gone, I'll be honest. I just completely unplugged, and so a week ago today, I was in northern Pennsylvania hiking a 25-mile loop with my two oldest sons. We got our backpacks on, and we're in the wilderness, and it was awesome. No cell phone reception, couldn't find out anything, and it was just like this amazing moment, just completely unplug. And I thought, man, this is what reality should feel like. Like this is amazing. It's just like the whole volume just turned down, and all I could hear was just the sound of nature and the sound of my boys' voices, and we're just talking about life and everything going on and what they're dealing with and what they're thinking about, and it was just awesome. It was so great just to be away. And then, of course, we got back to the car on Sunday afternoon, and you pack up and you start driving, and pretty quickly that reality that you've sort of been able to ignore for a little while started to slap me in the face, and I didn't appreciate that very much. But suddenly you've got cell phone reception. Suddenly, you got email, you got texts, and you got headlines. You see everything that's going on, everything that I knew was already out there, but I'd been able to just sort of forget for 48 hours. And suddenly, it's like there it was. And as I'm driving back and even into Sunday evening, I'm just looking at everything ahead in the week and looking at everything on the news and all the emails that are coming in and everything that's going on. And I just thought, oh, Lord, what a mess. And I had this thought of what can we really do in a world this messy? What can we really do? I don't know if you remember, I think they might still be around, but at least a little while ago, there were these Geico commercials. And the tagline was, it's what you do. And so if you're a cat, you ignore people. It's what you do. But if you want to save on car insurance, you shop with Geico. It's what you do. You remember those? See, I still remember those. One, they're kind of amusing, but two, Geico is just so good at building their brand, right? You just know who Geico is. And the whole point of a brand is so much more than a logo, right? That your brand is your qualities, your values of the company, and it's like the ethos, it's the vibe that they send out, and Geico is just so good at that. I can't imagine anybody in America not knowing what Geico is and knowing that you save on car insurance if you shop with Geico. By the way, they're not giving me a kickback for this. All right, this isn't going on YouTube and click here. But the reality is that's what they do. Now, whether they really do that is a whole other question, right? That's the beauty of marketing. You can say, we save you on car insurance. And everybody goes, that's what they do, but you don't know if that's what they really do until you actually shop around. But see, that's the beauty of a good brand, right? It communicates who they are and who you want them to know that they are. And all the most successful businesses, they have a brand. Whether it's Geico or Nike or Adidas or McDonald's or whoever it is, there's a vibe, there's an ethos, it's who they are. Right? The best definition that I found for a brand is that it is your gut reaction when you see that logo, when you hear that name. It's what they elicit within you that then reveals who they are and makes them distinct from their competitors so that you'll shop with them and not with anybody else. And this is why successful companies, they spend so much money, so much time, so much energy in building and then protecting their brand because it communicates who they are. And if their brand is damaged, if their brand is tarnished, right, then they have to fix it, they have to revitalize it, they have to change it, they have to rebrand even, potentially, because if you become more known for what you don't want to be known for, then you're in trouble. If you become more known for poor customer service, for low quality products, then people aren't going to shop with you. And so not only do you protect and build the brand, but then if something happens to it, if it's damaged, if it's tarnished, you have to revitalize it. You might have to rebrand. You have to do whatever it takes to change that negative gut reaction back into a positive gut reaction so that people will shop with you. And you might not realize it, though, because the companies aren't the only thing with brands, right? You have a brand. You've probably never thought of that. You have a brand because, and you might not even want to know this, but when people see you coming, they have a gut reaction. Sometimes it's hopefully positive, and sometimes it's I'm just going to kind of slowly back away, right? We all have a brand. There's something about us that our ethos, our vibe that people just see. And you might not be able to articulate it, but you have a brand. And the church has a brand. The church has a brand. There's a brand that we are supposed to be known for, a vibe, an ethos that we're supposed to be projecting to the world, and that brand is love. And you don't have to take my word for it. You might think, well, that sounds kind of squishy and soft and fuzzy and feel-goody or whatever, but that's not just me. That's not my opinion. That's actually what Jesus says. He says love is our brand. And in John 13, Jesus makes it pretty clear. He says, a new command I give you, love one another. As I have loved you, so you must love one another. By this, all men will know that you're my disciples, if you love one another. See, if you're a cat, you ignore people. It's what you do. If you're a follower of Jesus, you love people. It's what you do. And in a messy and divided and very, very unloving world, this is what sets us apart. This is our brand. So for the next several weeks, I want to spend some time just talking about love, about what it really is, about how Jesus talks about love, about how the scriptures teach us about love, because I think that maybe the church needs a little rebranding. I'm not sure that we're known for the things that we want to be known for. I'm not convinced that what we're supposed to be known for is eliciting the response that we want people to have when they think about the church. And we want to make sure that we're very clear about our brand, about what love is, and how we are to love one another. This is the kind of love that Jesus calls us to. It's the most powerful tool that we have in this messy and messed up and unloving world. It's what sets us apart, is to love one another. It's our brand. So Jesus says, a new command I give you, love one another as I have loved you, so you must love one another. By this, all men will know that you're my disciples if you love one another. And you might be thinking, well, that sounds kind of narrow, isn't it? I mean, just love one another. Like, Jesus, don't you mean love the world? Just understand that this is within context, right? So if you read earlier in John, if you've read the whole book of John, everything that John says, pretty clearly, if you know no other verse in the Bible, you know John 3:16. For God so loved the world. And see, what Jesus is revealing to us, our motivation here is that one of the most powerful evidences, proofs that there is that God is real, that Jesus is real, is actually our love for one another. Jesus' point is that if we're not loving one another, people won't give him a second glance. One of the ways we actually love the world, because our desire for the world is that they would experience a life-changing relationship with Jesus, that they would encounter his love and it would change them. And so one of the ways that we love the world is by loving one another so that they can see that Jesus' love is in us. What is a little bit odd about what Jesus is saying here is that he says it's a new commandment, and it wasn't. Jesus even quotes at other times from Leviticus 19:18 is one of his passages he went back to a few times. He says, do not seek revenge or bear a grudge against one of your people, but love your neighbor as yourself. I am the Lord. Like, God has said, love others. This isn't a new idea. He said this from the beginning, love other people. What's new about what Jesus is saying is the standard, about what love entails, about what it requires, about what it looks like, about what it costs. And Jesus says, I'm giving you a whole new standard for love, and it's me. It's me. As I have loved you, so you must love one another. You ever felt like you're being set up for failure? This is one of those moments. Love like Jesus has loved you, failed, already done, like not even coming close. I mean, in case you're wondering, or if you need a refresher on how Jesus has loved you, understand that this is the most important, most powerful person ever in all of the universe. Not like for a season, like he had a high point, like ever in the entire universe, Jesus, one with God. Most important, most powerful person ever, bar none. And he sees us in our predicament and says, okay, I'm going to give up equality with God. I'm going to give up my rights and my status. I'm going to come down and become one of you, live as one of you, and all the mess that is. And then he's going to love and teach in such a way and talk about God in such a way and reveal himself in such a way that everybody hates him who has power. And so all the corrupt authorities and the corrupt religious leaders, they conspire together in order to arrest Jesus. They take him on trumped up charges, totally injustice, totally unfair. They take him and they beat him, they flog him, they mock him, and then they execute him in one of the most excruciating forms of execution ever imagined by anyone. And he does all that so that you and I could find forgiveness for our sins and the hope of eternal life. Like, that's how he loves us. Just imagine for a second. Let's do a thought experiment. Try to imagine the most important person, the most powerful person in the world right now. I don't know who you're imagining. I'm just going to give you one just for fun, all right? Elon Musk, all right? So just imagine Elon Musk. I don't care what you think about him, right? So here's somebody who has insane money, insane power, insane influence that you and I can't begin to really understand. And now just imagine that he finds somebody on death row. And he says, you know what, I'm gonna go in here and I'm gonna get this guy to death row, but hold up. This person on death row, they're on death row because they tried to kill him. Now, I realize that's not a capital offense, but just for the sake of illustration, just bear with me, right? So he finds the person who hates him, wants him dead, who is sentenced to death and says, I'm gonna stand in your place, I'm going to die for you. But not only that, he says, I'm gonna write you in as the sole beneficiary for all of my fortune after I die for you. Now take that and multiply it by infinity. And you have begun to touch the magnitude of Jesus' love for you. See, how do we love like that? Right? The ship has sailed. We can't love to the same degree that Jesus loves. But it's not a matter of degree. We're never going to live up to the degree of Jesus' love, the most powerful, important for the lowliest, least deserving. Never going to live up to that. It's not a matter of degree, it's a matter of kind. And Jesus says, here's how I've loved you. I've loved you with a self-sacrificial, a die to myself, everything for you, you before me. I'm laying it all down kind of love. And he says, this is how I want you to love one another. Which, let's be honest, when we think about love, we usually want love to be about us. I mean, this is why we love in our society. It's not because we can sacrifice, it's because love makes us feel wonderful. Right? We love love, we write songs about love, we write stories about love, we're looking for love, we're all about love. And 9 times out of 10, though, it's love that makes us feel good, that makes us feel amazing. You know, you fall in love and man, their happiness is your happiness. And listen, I'm all for that, just to be really clear, all right? I fell in love with my wife a long time ago and it hasn't changed. And I'm all about that kind of love. But that's not enough, right? Like if you've been in a relationship with somebody, maybe you're in love right now, or you've been in love and you remember when you're so in love and you're just, you know, it's like deer eyes at each other, a little puppy love. And you're just like, man, what can I do to make you happy? Because when you're happy, I'm happy. And it's just this, we just love each other so much. It's great. It's great. But it's not enough. Like life gets hard. I remember when Carrie and I first got married and people said, man, when you get married, you discover how selfish you are. I didn't. No, I didn't, you know, because we were so in love. Man, I was so madly in love with her and she tolerated me and it was so great. Like I would do anything for her and she was amazing. And so like we would be like, man, I'll make dinner tonight. No, I'll make dinner tonight. You go sit down, I'll make dinner. And we get done with dinner, it's like, I'll do the dishes. No, I'll do the dishes. You know, we're like fighting over how we can serve one another because, man, my happiness is your happiness and I love you and you love me and we're as happy as we can be. And then we had children. And suddenly I learned how selfish I really was because I didn't want to love sacrificially. I wanted to love when it was convenient, when it was easy, when we're all lovey-dovey. And suddenly I remember the moment we were sitting at the dinner table and we've made dinner. I don't know who had to do it, right? It wasn't a blessing anymore, right? Now it's a chore. We made dinner and we're sitting there and we're looking at the dirty dishes and we are done. We're so exhausted. We only have 1 kid at this point. Now we got 3 more. 1 kid at this point, so lightweight. And we're sitting there and I'm looking at the dirty dishes and I'm like, man, I hope she moves first. You know, like I'm done. See, the kind of love that Jesus is talking about It's the kind of love you have to choose even when you don't feel like it. It's easy to love when it's convenient, it's easy, and you get something great out of it. You feel all warm and fuzzy, and you feel amazing. But the kind of love that Jesus is talking about, it's a choice. Because you might never feel like loving somebody like that, ever. If you waited till you felt like loving someone like this, it would never happen. Which is why Jesus makes it a command. It's not optional. He's not like, maybe we should try it. No, it's a command. A new command I give you, love one another. As I have loved you, so you must love one another. I'm sure I'm the only one, but I don't like being told what to do. None of you can relate to that, I am sure. You're all just like, man, tell me what to do. I do not like being told what to do. I don't like receiving commands. And thankfully, I am in a place in my life where very rarely does someone just like tell me what to do. But maybe, I don't know, maybe that's your experience. Maybe you've got a boss who likes to boss you around. They like to use their position to tell you how it ought to be. But can I tell you, one of the things I've realized about myself is that the reason that I don't like receiving commands is a character flaw at one level. It's my pride, it's my arrogance of like, how can you tell me what to do? I know better for me what you think I need. And the worst thing in the world, can I tell you the worst thing? It's not when someone gives me a command, when somebody does tell me what to do in those moments, it's when I realize, oh, this hurts, that they're right. Oh, that's painful. Not long ago, we were out in public, and one of my kids got a nosebleed, and I grabbed some napkins from the spot, and I grab his head, and I'm like holding his nose, and from out of nowhere, this person comes to me who's like half my age, and she's like, you're not holding his nose right. Do it like this. And I'm like, inside, like I didn't show it visibly, but inside, I'm like, who do you think I'm his dad. I've been dealing with bloody noses longer than you've probably even been alive. Like I can't even believe you have the audacity. Like, who do you think you are? And she showed me how I should do it, and I was like, yeah, she's right. That hurts. It's a little wounding to the pride right there. It's not what I wanted. See, we don't like to take orders from anybody. We're Americans. The only thing we love more than love is freedom. I don't want anybody to tell me what to do. I don't want anybody to limit my freedom. I don't want anyone to make me feel like I can't do what I want to do. That is constraining. It's confining. It makes me feel boxed in. Don't give me commands so that I can only do what you're telling me to do. And what we don't realize is that God's commands are not constraining and they're not confining. That God's commands are actually life-giving, that he's actually calling us into a life that is so much bigger than anything that we could imagine. See, what we want is for God to do what we want. And what that means is we want God to fit in our lives. We want God to take the enormity of who he is and his power and to use it to serve our little dreams and plans. It's like taking the full power of a nuclear power plant to light a single light bulb. It's like, I want you to do everything that I want because my plans are just so big. And instead of trying to fit God into our lives, to cram him in, he's saying, listen, I want you to swim. I want you to swim in the enormity of my plans, the enormity of my heart. All that I want to do through you, it's so much bigger and greater than you can possibly imagine. See, the love that he's called us to, it's not a small love. It's not a small love. The love he's called us to, it's not a Taylor Swift song-sized love. No offense to Miss Swift. Right? It is a love, the limits of which we'll never comprehend. In Ephesians 3, the Apostle Paul, he says, I pray that you being rooted and established in love may have power together with all the saints to grasp how wide and long and high and deep is the love of Christ. He's not saying that you're going to grasp where those boundaries are. He's not saying if you just go far enough and you get a tape measure, you can plot it out and you can figure out where the boundaries are of God's life. You just grasp how big it is and you can see those lines all the way around God's love here but not here. He says, no. What he's saying is, it's until you realize just how limitless, how infinite God's love is. When you realize that, then you begin to realize how he loves you. And Jesus says, this is going to shatter your boundaries. Right? When you love the way that he loves, the infinite love of Jesus, it shatters boundaries, it defies the limits we try to create, it sets our souls free. See, I'm convinced that when we actually grasp just the expanse of God's love that we will never find the end of, that's the beauty of it. You're never going to find the end of it. When you begin to realize that, it obliterates the categories that we try to create about who is worthy of love. Who can we love? Who can we not love? Who should we love? Who should we not love? Because God doesn't play by our rules. And he doesn't live within our boundaries. This is why every time the Pharisees try to tell Jesus, don't love those people, Jesus says, watch me. Because Jesus isn't playing their game. They're like, no, we want to have restrictions around who God loves. And he says, no, not going to play that game. Not going to play that game. And Jesus says, love one another like that. Love one another without reservation, without qualification, because that's my brand. That's the kind of love he has. By this, all men will know that you are my disciples, if you love one another. See, unfortunately, throughout history, people of faith, God's people, have always found excuses to draw lines. To say, oh no, you're the wrong kind of believer. You're the right kind, and we're going to draw lines. You, not you, in, out. In the book of Judges, you have this account where there's this Israelite clan, a little clan called the Gileadites, and they're fighting against the Ephraimites, who are also Israelites, and they use a single word, maybe you've heard it, shibboleth, to decide who is the right kind of Israelite and who is the wrong kind of Israelite. In Judges 12, it says, the Gileadites, this little clan of Israel, captured the fords of the Jordan leading to Ephraim, one of the tribes of Israel. And whenever a survivor of Ephraim said, let me cross over, the men of Gilead asked him, are you an Ephraimite? And if he replied, no, they said, all right, say shibboleth. If he said sibboleth, not shibboleth, sibboleth, because he could not pronounce the word correctly, they seized him and killed him at the fords of the Jordan. 42,000 Ephraimites were killed that day. And thousands of years later, we still do the same thing. Thousands of years later, we create our own shibboleths, a whole host, a whole litany of shibboleths that we get to determine who's the right kind of Christian, who's the wrong kind of Christian. And it's funny, I was actually trying to think of an example to share with you. Like, here's an example of a shibboleth. And what I realized is that whatever I shared with you would become a shibboleth of its own. And that there would be some of you who would agree and some of you who would go, oh, he's the wrong kind of Christian. That's what it's come to. Even the shibboleths we use are shibboleths. To say it's a shibboleth lets you think about that later. See, there is no right kind of Christian. Right? There's only one type of Christian. Let's be really clear about this. There's only one type of Christian. It's the person who has a relationship with God through Jesus Christ. Period, full stop. There is no addition. That's it. That's the end of the conversation. And so if someone says that they are a follower of Jesus, they love Jesus, then I have a responsibility, according to Jesus, to love them the way that he has loved me. And by the way, what that means is, and this is the part that gets so hard. This is the part that's so hard. Part of the loving response to them is not to go, really? And to look kind of squinty-eyed sideways. Part of the posture of love is to take them at their word. If someone says, I'm a follower of Jesus, I love Jesus, then I go, then I believe you. Let's talk about what that relationship is like. I'm going to meet you in that space. I'm not going to be like, no, you're not. I'm not sure if you really are. Oh yeah, prove it. Say shibboleth. No, I say, I believe you. I'm going to meet you there in that place. And then we can discuss all types of things, because it doesn't matter what you think. It doesn't matter. At one level, it doesn't matter like how you dress or how you talk or where you come from or who you vote for. None of these things matter in terms of my love for you. All that matters is that you're a follower of Jesus, and therefore I love you the way that he has loved me. That's my obligation. And if afterwards, it doesn't mean, by the way, that we can't argue some stuff out, right? It doesn't mean that we can't have real intense conversations even. We can disagree. We can say, no, I don't agree with you. I don't see it that way. But what I'm never doing is calling into question who they are as a follower of Jesus. Like, we can argue over all kinds of stuff, but then again, the posture of love is to seek to understand where they're coming from, not to write them off and say, you're the wrong kind of Christian. And see, if we can't have that kind of argument, if we can't have that kind of discussion and then hug it out afterwards and meet together like we're gonna do today and have a barbecue and eat together and fellowship together and come in here and worship together, then we are rocking the wrong brand. Because our brand is love. Because this, how we love one another, Jesus says, this is how the world knows we're for real. Hey, have you ever wondered if you really have a relationship with God? You ever questioned your faith? You ever doubted? Thought, I don't know if I really know God. Like, I don't know if I really have a relationship with God. And it's so interesting that John, later in his life, as he's reflecting on this very moment in Jesus' life and teaching, he says in John 5:13, I write these things to you who believe in the name of the Son of God so that you may know you have eternal life. And what I've heard people try to argue is that what John is saying here is that if you just have the right information, that's how you know. If you just have knowledge, like that's the basis for your assurance, but that's not at all what John is saying if you read in the context. Because the whole point of the letter, everything leading up to this point is not about what you know, it's about how you live and how you love. Right before this, John says, if anyone says, 1 John 4, if anyone says, I love God, yet hates his brother, he's a liar. For anyone who does not love his brother, whom he has seen, cannot love God, whom he has not seen. And he has given us this command, whoever loves God must also love his brother. Everyone who believes that Jesus is the Christ is born of God, and everyone who loves the Father loves his child as well. This is how we know that we love the children of God, by loving God and carrying out his commands. This is love for God, to obey his commands. What's his command? To love one another. Sound familiar? See, for John, the idea that you can have a relationship with God and not love one another, that we can be in here and claim to have a relationship with God, but not love the people across from us and in the pew next to us. John says, I don't even have a grid for that. That's nonsensical to him. Loving one another is the proof. It's the assurance we need that we've actually truly encountered God, that we know him. See, in theological terms, there's a couple of ideas, concepts that sometimes we get a little bit confused about. And one is eternal security, and the other is assurance. And so let me unpack these for us for a moment. See, eternal security is about having a future that is secure because God is the one who holds that future. God is the one who guarantees that future. See, when you give your life to Jesus, when you step into a relationship with him, then Jesus comes into your life and you receive the Holy Spirit as a down payment, a seal, a deposit for your eternity, and there's no undoing that. Some of the language that Scripture uses is of adoption. See, once you give your life to Jesus, you are adopted as a child, and guess what? You can't undo an adoption. You can't tell God, unadopt me. Right? See, your future, your eternity is secure. Eternal security, it's secure because God is the one who holds your future. Assurance, though, is different. Assurance has to do with our confidence that we truly know God. It's how we go, okay, how do I know that I really have a relationship with him? How do I have confidence that I truly know him, that I've truly been saved? And if you ask John, John says it's really simple. How loving are you? Do you love more than you used to? Are you growing in love? Are you loving? Do you love other Christians? Because if you don't, you need to take a long, hard look in the mirror and have a very long, honest conversation with God. Because what you think is true about you may not be true. You want to know whether you truly know God. Are you loving? Because if you're not, then you may just be fooling yourself. You may just be playing the game. See, by the way, this is the question that not only are we supposed to ask ourselves, this is the same question the world is asking us. See, the world isn't asking how old the earth is, or whether the flood really happened, or even whether the Bible is true. You know what the world wants to know? If we've really met God. That's what the world wants to know. Have we really met God? Have we truly encountered God? Or is this all a hoax? And the proof that they're looking for, it's not a theological argument. It's not archaeological evidence. It's us. It's how we love one another. It's the very thing that Jesus says here. It's how we love one another. That's the proof. That's the evidence. Don't you wish Jesus had given us something else, though? I mean, wouldn't it be great if Jesus said, they're going to know you're my disciples by your ability to perform miracles. God, wouldn't that have been great? Like superpowers, you know? Like somebody's like, do you know Jesus? You know, is God real? Like, are you really his disciple? And I'm like, could I walk on water if I didn't? Huh? Right? I mean, that'd be incredible. It's like, do you really know God? It's like fireball, lightning bolt. You know, it's like, watch me. Clearly I know God. And Jesus doesn't do that. And it's because Jesus knows that the most life-changing reality is not miracles out there. The most profound experience, the most profound moment, the most profound evidence that we will encounter of the reality of God is not something that we can perform out there, not even the miracles that he did. It's a changed life. I mean, that's miraculous. See, I've seen all kinds of magicians in my life, and I've seen them do all kinds of tricks, and not one time has it inspired me to go and run off to learn how to become a magician or decide to become one of their disciples. Like, it's great. You have some tricks. Neat for you. But see, a changed life, to see someone whose life has been utterly wrecked by the love of Jesus, man, you don't get over that. And when it happens to you, you really don't get over it. Yesterday, I saw a post from a buddy from high school, and I shouldn't call him a buddy from high school. We were not friends, not even close. When we were in high school, he was way cooler than me, and bigger, stronger, faster. I mean, he was just everything that I kind of wanted to be, except for the fact that he was just a horrible person. And he was constantly suspended for drugs and alcohol and getting in fights. And if we were going to vote, he was like most likely to end up in prison. I mean, that's who this guy was. And we graduated from high school, and I thought, man, I'm never going to see that guy again. You know, I'll read about him in the paper somewhere. And then one day I ran into him in a gym. And I'm like, dude, I know you. And he's like, oh, yeah. And his whole vibe was changed. He was a complete, I couldn't even articulate it. Like there was just something about him. Right? My gut reaction as he came towards me at first was like, oh, is he going to punch me? And then as he gets closer, he was just exuding this humility and this compassion and this kindness. And he came up and he gave me a hug. And he's like, oh man, it's good to see you. He's like, I have so much to tell you. He's like, I remember who you were in high school. And he had encountered Jesus. And Jesus' love had wrecked his life. Completely changed him. And the reason he was posting on Facebook yesterday is because he was asking for prayer. Because since that time, he has devoted his life to living and going to the most dangerous, closed places in the Middle East to tell people about the very love of Jesus that transformed his life because he wants to see it change theirs. I mean, God wrecked his life. That's what the love of Jesus does. Can I tell you a secret? The world is always a mess. It's not a new thing. It's been this way for a really, really long time. And I know it's scary. And I know we see all kinds of crises out there, and they're real. Okay, I'm not saying they're imaginary. But this is how it's always been. The world is always a mess. It's always in crisis. But the real danger that we're facing, it's never really out there. It's never really in the crises that we see in the news and that we hear about. Those are real, but the real crisis that you and I face, it's always on the inside of us. It's whether or not we will choose to love one another, or whether we will give in to the fear, whether we will join with everybody else in the world who's freaking out and panicking and drawing deeper and deeper lines in order to protect ourselves from everyone who's not like us, and draw deeper and deeper lines between who's in and who's out, who's the right kind of Christian versus the wrong kind of Christian, and draw smaller and smaller circles around ourselves until we're the only ones who fit. Because that's what's happening all around us. And we can join in, we can do that, or we can choose to be different. We can choose to be something that's truly miraculous, something that truly only God can do, something that's truly supernatural. See, there's nothing miraculous about loving people who are just like you. There's nothing noteworthy about that, right? To love people who look like you and act like you and talk like you and dress like you and vote like you, that's not a community, that's a clique. And it's love that's based on uniformity, not unity. But Jesus wants to do something extraordinary within us. He wants to make us truly a community, truly a family, where we come together and what unites us in him, his love that has transformed us, that's enough. That's all we need to have in common. It is the most important thing. That's his brand. That's our brand. That's what we should be known for, and that's how we should love. That's how we should exist. That's how we should come together. This is the love that he's called us to. See, listen, I don't ever want us to be known for anything more than loving the way Jesus does. I don't want us to be known for a political affiliation or a political agenda. I want us to be famous for how well we love one another. I want when people walk in here who don't know us, who've never walked into this space, that first of all, they would be amazed by how different we are. Like, I don't want to make us the same. I want to celebrate all the diversity. I want to celebrate how different we are. I want them to walk in here and be like, whoa, this is crazy. Because within this room, we've got, I don't know if you know this, we've got Eagles fans and Cowboys fans. Right? I mean, we got Phillies fans and Mets fans. I know that's fresh, but just, and even this one's hard for me, Yankee fans. Right? And we got people who, they're devoted to educating their children one way versus another way. And we've got people who love dogs and people who love cats and people who vote this way and that way. We got people who are vegetarians and people who are meat lovers, right? And we got all of that, and I don't want to get rid of that. I want to celebrate that, because what we're saying when we come together and we're transformed by Jesus' love and we continue to meet together and love each other is that his love is so great that all of us fit. His love is so immense, so enormous, there is room for all of us. Let's not limit it. Like, how dare we limit the love of God to say, no, it includes us, but not you. Like, let's come together and celebrate this love. And yeah, we can argue, we can fight over stuff as long as we hug it out afterwards and say, you know what, at the end of the day, Jesus loves you and so do I. And see, when we do that, the people who see us, the world will see that Jesus is real because we're for real. We're not just talk. We've been transformed by his love. That's his brand. That's our brand. It's love. And maybe you're here this morning and this is your first time here, and you're thinking, this isn't my community, this isn't my church. And maybe you feel like you've been part of a conversation that a little awkward, you're kind of listening in on, but I'm glad you're here, because what I want you to hear is the church that we want to be. And we're not there. And there's no shame in saying that. Like, we're not there. We are a work in progress. If we were there, you wouldn't need me. Like, I'd be done, right? But see, I need you too. Right? This is something that we do together. It says we come together. I can't grow in my ability to love other people like Jesus without you. It's really hard to grow in love by yourself. It's really hard to grow in love when you're around people who are only like you. We need one another, and we are a work in progress. And so if this is your first time and you're like, okay, I'm just getting to know this church, and he's talking about loving one another, I just want you to hear the kind of church that we aspire to be. We are a church that wants to be known, be famous for how God's love has transformed us, that we love the way that he loves. And if you're here this morning and you're just exploring your faith, maybe you've never given your life to Jesus and you're just sort of wondering about this whole God thing, I want you to know that where it begins is with his love for you. This whole conversation, it begins with him. And maybe you've been hurt by Christians. Many of us have. Maybe you've been burned in a church before here. You can't even believe you're walking in again right now. And I want you to just do me a favor and don't judge Jesus by us. Right? There is a perfection of love that we are never going to attain, but I want you to hear our heart that we desire to be. And so I hope that you will give us a chance to love you that way. Would you all just pray with me as we close? Lord, we just come before you and just realize that we are all at different points of surrender in our lives. That your love has been available to us constantly. It's always there. You're always offering it to us afresh every single day, and yet we don't always give ourselves to you. We push back against the very love that you offer. And for some of us, we've crossed this line of faith and we've been following you for a long time. And yet fear creeps in. And just as perfect love drives out fear, fear can drive out imperfect love. And so our love quotient has gone down and we are more afraid of the world, more afraid of for ourselves than we are full of your love. And so Lord, I pray that you would fill us anew. I pray that we would choose this week to love even when we don't feel like it. And as we step into that love, Lord, that we would experience yours in a whole new way. And Lord, if there's anyone here right now, I just know that many of us, we've been hurt by churches. We've been hurt by people who profess to know you. Lord, I pray right now that what they would find in you is healing. I pray that they would know that your love is real, that whatever flawed love that they've experienced or the lack of love that they've encountered is not a true reflection of you. But the love you have is beyond our comprehension. The love that you have for them, if they could only grasp it, is beyond measure. How wide, how long, how deep, how wide. And if that's you, and you're just at a place where you're looking for this kind of love, I want you to know that Jesus is the one who loves you that way. And if you've never given your life to him, you can. He is waiting to fill you with his love in a way that you can't imagine. And right now, you can say, Jesus, I give you my life. Jesus, come into my life. I need the love that only you can give. If you pray that prayer, I want you to know that Jesus, he hears you. And he will fill you with his love. And it begins a whole new journey in your life. Lord, we love very imperfectly, and we want to do better. Help us to be overwhelmed by you this week, to choose to love the way that you love. And let it start right here in this community, in this family. We pray this in your name. Amen. After Steve's going to lead us in a final song, and afterwards, if you would like prayer, we're going to have some members of our prayer team up here, and if maybe you've just chosen to give your life to Jesus, if you've taken that step of faith, they would love to talk to you and pray with you. But also if you've been hurt, maybe burned in a church before, and you just want someone to pray with you. They're not going to give you advice. They're not going to counsel you or tell you what to do. They just want to love on you and pray with you. And maybe you're just feeling fearful, and it's hard to love when you're afraid. And if you just want somebody to walk alongside you or just pray for you, that you be filled with Jesus' love anew, again, they'd love to do that with you. So I hope you'll come and pray with them. Thanks.